You have to be able to find the primary subluxation, and then you have to be able to apply that with the appropriate technique at the appropriate time for that child.
All right, chiropractors and chiropractic students, welcome to the Family Practice Podcast. You know, the one you've been waiting way too long for, because this podcast will actually stay focused on chiropractic. Not only what it takes to get world-class clinical results for kids and families in your community, but also what it takes to build a legendary, incredible family practice that takes care of your family way beyond your dreams. I'm Dr. Tony Ebel, and I'll be joined by Dr. Matt Hill, Dr. Ellie Wright, Jackie Jakubowicz, and incredible guests, chiros, associates, CAs, all these folks making massive impact around the world. We're going to cover everything: pediatric, perinatal, family practice. This is the podcast you've been waiting for, because moms and dads and families have always needed us. Now they're finally ready for us. I hope you're ready for the Family Practice Podcast. Let's go.
Welcome to the Family Practice Podcast. I'm Dr. Matt Hill, and today we're diving deep into a topic that every family chiropractor faces. Those really challenging pediatric cases, the ones that maybe keep you up at night, questioning your approach, searching for answers. It could be a child whose, neurological issues just seem to defy everything you've done. You're searching for, what do I do next? And what I'm doing is enough. Am I missing something? And so I promise you here, you're not alone. And if I'm honest, I felt stuck more than once in a tough case in my career. In fact, these are the ones that stick with you. I vividly remember a mom who had been to the Mayo Clinic. They've consulted with the best neurosurgeons. They even flew around the globe to see a world-renowned specialist who could help. Now, her son Kyle was struggling with sensory, seizures, behavior, emotional, developmental, gosh, you name it, the challenge, after he had a traumatic birth that left him with a CSF shunt and what doctors called a congenital fusion in her upper cervical region. Now, mom had never even considered chiropractic care. And it was really humbling sitting on the other side of that consult room with mom, Sheila, knowing that I'm not the wildly sought after doc and in that cool airplane magazine, right, of the top doctors, but also awesomely not there either, because I knew something that those doctors didn't. I knew that caring for Kyle's nervous system can help. And in cases like Kyle's, I learned so many lessons that we can apply to all those difficult, tough pediatric cases. And that's what I want to do today, is I want to take the we approach. We are pediatric chiropractors that can help you in your practice. So, as neuro-focused chiropractors, these are complex challenges we face. The success lies in the lessons learned, and they come from experience. For those who have turned the corner, triumphed, and made it through all that negative momentum. So, in this podcast, we'll explore 4 game-changing insights gained from all the PX neurologically focused docs that are in our community who have just mastered that art of caring for the toughest pediatric cases. Now, these lessons, they're rooted in the principles of neurologically focused chiropractic care. And I promise you, they have the power to transform your clarity, confidence, and results. And that's going to make the difference in your practice and in the lives and the kids that you serve. Now, we intentionally need to go really deep here with this. And so these lessons are not just service level lessons. And I can promise you that every single question that I receive from other doctors in PX and outside of PX in the chiropractic community, I run through the framework of these 4 lessons. They can help you in every single clinical case. So these lessons are going to equip you to tackle even the most daunting cases. So get ready, get that notebook out, get ready to learn. As we go through these tough cases, more confidence and certainty will come to you. And as the quote goes, the student then can become the teacher to these parents, to these kids, and these families. All right, let's dig in to lesson 1. Now, lesson 1 is there is a crucial role of a neurologically focused care plan. Now, every single aspect of care we provide is focused on the nervous system and promoting neuroplasticity. If this is the first article, or like just thing you've read about care planning, you are about to be blown away. I hope it hasn't. But I think what you'll soon realize is that everything we do starts with the acronym NEURO care plan. nervous system care. Neuroplasticity is all about ensuring the body's most critical systems, the nervous system, can do what it does best: rest, relax, heal, grow, and adapt. These 5 elements are the cornerstones of well-being for our kids. From the tiniest infant, needing all that sleep with their parents' arms and just chilling, to, parents that need resilience in a chaotic, stressful world. Now, when we craft a clinical science-based care plan for every child or adult, every aspect revolves around that neuroplasticity conversation. So that's why we put neuro first. Now, we use advanced tools in our office, the Insight scans. These are scans that allow us to deep dive into the function of the central nervous system. They look beyond feeling. They look at function. They help us to identify and measure stress, tension, dysfunction, anything lurking within that autonomic nervous system. And even, go deep, the vagus nerve here, right? We want to contrast what maybe the pediatrician or what the medical doctor is looking for here and go deep and say, okay, what is the root cause of subluxation and what does it point to? Most often, it points to an overstressed, fatigued, malfunctioning nervous system. And to get out of that, we absolutely have to care plan. From there, our team constructs a precise, customized care plan tailored to that child's specific needs. Now, this is never a one-size-fits-all approach. It's personalized, it's a roadmap, it's designed to help that child gain neurological function and well-being, get them momentum. Now, what's truly remarkable, if you use these scans in practice, if you've done care planning, is truly how predictive it is. And to use the medical term, prescribe, not going to go deeper into that word, but when we prescribe a care plan, we want to recommend 5 foundational steps to this. And so if you're taking notes right now, jot these down because these are going to help you really have the principles to develop a care plan. Like I said, if you've never really delved into care planning before, or maybe hold this is a one-size-fits-all approach, this is going to help you go deeper than that. It's going to help you go more granular than that, and it's going to help these kids. So number 1, when we dive into the 5 foundational steps of a care plan, first, listen for the depth of the subluxation and struggle. When you dig in here with your clinical history, really think of what percentage of that child's life have they been subluxated. Think about when did that deep-rooted pattern start. Now, this lets you go all the way back, not only to birth, maybe where you saw a perfect storm birth with, forceps, vacuum, C-section, all those tough things, but even go deeper than that. What was maternal stress like? What was stress in utero? How did their nervous system respond to that? And then how did the stress after that layer on? This also allows you to be thinking about primary patterns. Now, we'll talk more about that next, but that lets you look at what is the mechanism of subluxation from a 3T standpoint, right? The thoughts, traumas, toxins of it all, that lens to guide you to the time and frequency needed within that care plan to give them neurologic momentum. So number 2, what you want to do is follow the developmental stages and stuck points. If you're looking at it in terms of what percentage of life or how deep that subluxation goes, also then take it a level deeper and say, okay, at what point did that child experience the massive root cause that led them to struggle? Was it a difficult birth? Was it a trauma that happened even before they were born, when they were in utero with mom? Was it preconception? Was it during a phase of development? Now, human brain development is meant to happen in sequence. And when that gets altered, adaptation happens, good or bad. What we know from research is that neuroconnections from different functions develop sequentially and often overlap. So age and developmental stage in kids are really when the big subluxation patterns start to matter immensely. Thus, the amount of effort changes to require to get the brain ability to adapt depending on where they end up subluxated in that developmental step. For example, if a kiddo is is massively struggling with a torticollis and they're about to hit motor milestones and they're not able to do tummy time real well, and they have a hard time turning, they have a hard time, nursing, they have a hard time then, rolling over, they have a hard time symmetrically crawling. This all adds up, and you have a 2 or 3 year old potentially who's struggling to walk coordinated or to move coordinated. That impacts the sensory system, overall movement, brain development, and turns into behavior. Chiropractors, you know how this all works, but that one step of that subluxation affecting them at that point with the motor system neurologically matters a lot. And so that's why we've got to look at what developmental step are they subluxated in. Number 3, measure what matters. We all know this, right? Simply put, measure the nervous system from a neurological lens. I mentioned this right at the beginning. We recommend the Insight scans. As I mentioned above too, take a detailed neuro-focused clinical history. Now in PX, we break this down into different variables of life findings and scan findings. This actually allows us to score and quantify the neurometrics to appropriately predict and build a neurologically focused care plan. In fact, we call this the PX Care Plan Builder. This allows us to do 3 things. 1, score it. 2, calculate it, and then 3, personalize it. You can do that, and it allows you to be very confident, am I in the right range to be the doctor and really recommend to that patient what they need neurologically. Number 4, we have to factor in current and future lifestyle stressors. What are the current 3 T's coming at them? For example, some good could come in the form of supportive parents, a family, all of those good things, clean, healthy diet, balanced diet, an active lifestyle. On the bad side, that can, lead to a good, but on the bad side, that can lead to momentum going against your care plan, including busy, emotionally unstable, processed unhealthy diets, sedentary screen time, all of those things can factor against you. And then you need to work to get better momentum within that care plan and thus likely recommend more. Number 5, factor in your experience and your skill set. Honestly, chiropractors, I work with a lot of students. I was a student once. I love going back to that phase. And truth is, chiropractic works, but it's also easy to get stuck in a messy middle of neurological healing, right? For any of us, no matter how much experience you have. But if you don't have experience in these cases and you're still learning and growing, add extra to that care plan. Lean on the experience of PX Docs as a collective and get great at care planning by the reps. But take this to the bank. Frequency is the most important to start the care plan as it unlocks and changes a deep, stuck chronic pattern. So when you're care planning and you're in doubt or it's a tough case, go more frequent at the beginning. Now, secondly, if the case is more deep, stuck, chronic pattern, time can be the most important variable there. And you might need to add 2 or 3 months at 2 times a week to the end of a longer care plan to give the nervous system the time it needs to reorganize, get back on track and heal. So really care planning is about all 5 of these things, but get that time and frequency right. Frequency on the front end, time at the end to give their nervous system the time to be neuroplastic, the time to get momentum, and the time to heal. And honestly, if you're more interested in care planning, join us and train with us in PX. It is the coolest thing we get to do to walk through a care plan and be neurologically predictive and help kids. Now, by obsessing and just honestly implementing these personalized high frequency care plans, it allows us to really have the tools to tackle the toughest cases. It makes a lasting difference in the lives of our kids and honestly the community, because when you get a kid better, when you show those results, their family will follow and the referrals will follow. And it's amazing to be able to do that in your community. So master the care plan. That is a huge lesson when it comes to tough cases. All right. Lesson 2, focus on primary subluxations. Now, primary is the key adjective there. Another word they use, if you look at chiropractic philosophy and chiropractic history, is major subluxation patterns. These are critical for us as chiropractors to learn when looking at tough pediatric cases, Because if we can identify these primaries, it allows us to target the source, the root cause of that neurological dysfunction. Then it allows us to address those issues by honestly minimizing unnecessary stress on the child's nervous system, right? We don't want to scatter that. And I'll talk more about that. The cool part with this lesson is it's really rooted in research from the past in chiropractic. When you dig into the chiropractic textbook written by Stevenson, almost 100 years ago, they talk about this specifically. They actually use the term scattering, just mentioned it, right? Scattering meaning when you over-adjust non-major, non-primary subluxations. What you do here is you essentially scatter what they call repertory materials to too many places. Now, on the flip side of this, by adjusting one local and its attendant condition, the material resource of the body can be directed to one place or system. I'm literally reading from Stevenson here, guys. At this time, this will be no great drain upon reparatory function in the body. Now, it continues by saying, the other subluxations can wait until the major condition is well cleared, and then the worst of them can be attended to next. That's a direct quote from Stevenson. I think it's from the junior text. He talks about how primary subluxations matter because you don't want to scatter the innate nervous system ability to heal. It's crazy how applicable this is today in practice. Kids now, they're so massively subluxated in so many systems and angles that it's just easy for us docs not to know when to start and just simply do too much. Because in truth, there is so much to do. It's okay to feel that way. So by focusing on primary subluxation patterns and adjusting and clearing them alone within that care plan, remember lesson 1, we can keep progress going without overwhelming an already overwhelmed central nervous system. In your patient's words, focusing on the primaries is simply digging in and finding the root cause. That's what they're looking for from you. Getting the nervous system to change that root cause first and build upon it in sequence. Now, this might sound overwhelming to you to find these primaries. How do you find those, especially if you're in student world right now and just entering chiropractic school? Now, the pediatric experience teaches chiropractors advanced techniques for locating and addressing these primary subluxation patterns. And I promise you, it's very simple once you put in the reps. Through a combination of assessments, case history, analysis, the scans I talked about earlier, we even have a 5-step framework to help you tableside to make sure you're adjusting primaries only. This equips you with a strategy to not only have the care plan before you get to the table, but allow you to find those primaries when you're there. And just imagine the certainty with that to know, hey, I'm clearing the root cause, the primary subluxation, so the nervous system can get momentum. Now, this is applicable immediately. Follow these 2 steps, right? Care plan with more time and frequency. That less is more approach to adjusting is what's going to allow you to get that momentum. Care planning, primaries, and that helps you not only to get momentum, but then to leave those secondaries, we call them tertiary subluxation patterns alone until everything is well cleared. All right, that's lesson 2. Lesson 3, guys, mastering multiple techniques and applications in your care. Now, chiropractors, this is a fun topic because a lot of times we get very, call it just, in ourselves about, hey, this is what I love to do. I love this technique or that technique. Chiropractors who excel in treating tough pediatric cases, though, they understand the importance of being proficient in multiple of these adjusting techniques. Be a mixer, but not in the traditional chiropractic mixer definition sense here, if you get my drift. Be a mixer of chiropractic and chiropractic only by mastering a variety of approaches, techniques, and applications to really be able to apply these to the unique needs of each and every pediatric or family case that you see. Now, when you're working with children who have complex neurological issues, oftentimes we need to think outside the box. Honestly, very few children can sit still, are calm, can do the traditional checks tableside, and then compound that with, intensive patients with intensive struggles, perfect storm kiddos who struggle with sensory, emotional, behavioral things. You need a full toolbox to be able to clear subluxation patterns with these kids. So using different techniques to address these challenges can help, but it honestly goes deeper than that. Here's how it works currently in chiropractic, is right now we simplify this into two main camps. And really, regardless of technique, you deploy either manual over here or tonal over here, right? We joke, it's like if you're tonal, you've got the straps on your belt for two integrators, right? Not just one. If you're more of a manual doc, you've got your nervous scope and your piezoforms are ready to go, like a Gonstead doc, ready to get into that subluxation pattern. Now, so we look at these two and we say, okay, is it manual versus tonal? But in PX, we want to go deeper than that, than one versus the other. Knowing that in a perfect storm, real world practice, you'll need to deploy both and mix them together, both manual and tonal. To apply this lesson number 3 in the fullest, you'll need to let go of some previously held beliefs and think about it like this. A neurotonal adjustment can be manual and done with high velocity, low amplitude HVLA, just as it can be done with light touch, sustained contact, toggle, or an integrator. In our work, tonal does not necessarily mean non-manual, and manual does not mean non-tonal. Both techniques combined is where the secret sauce lives. So let me talk you through this, because I know you might just be like, whoa, so you're telling me I can do both. I'm not only telling you you can do both, oftentimes you'll need to do both. And here's where it works if we look through a couple main points here. Now, in PX and in tough cases, we are absolutely obsessed with the secret, the sequence and order of things developmentally. When we dig into development, there's oftentimes in a sequence and order where a child may be more exhausted, may come in with lower tone, may come in with really exhausted transition zones or an exhausted nervous system. These are times where you need to apply more of an HVLA, more of a manual approach. On the flip side, there's kiddos that come in that are, we call them raging bulls, that are off the wall, 100 miles an hour, jumping over couches, tackling everybody in the office. And for these, you don't want to fight fire with fire and go HVLA. You want to do easy, gentle, tonal adjustments to help calm that nervous system. And that's why we use a multitude or mix of these techniques depending on the clinical need. We don't just want to force fit with what we're good at. And so that's why it's looking at the individual case and saying, okay, what does this child need in order to give their nervous system momentum? Now, the cool thing that you can always remember here, whether you're going manual, whether you're going tonal, whether you're doing the mix of both, is we are always working to restore autonomic balance with every single adjustment. Not just upper cervical, sacral, thoracics, no matter where you adjust, no matter what you use to adjust, we are working to restore balance. Now, to teach you all the specific approaches in this podcast, gosh, it would be impossible. But if this intrigues you, manual, tonal, and that conversation of really how you need to mix that, and you're interested in learning more, we go very deep on this neurotonal adjusting in our PX Neurotonaling Adjusting CE seminar through Life University. There's 60 hours of pre-work to this and 20 hours of live in-person pediatric specific training. You will be the expert in mastering the best technique and approach for your pediatric patients. Because remember, it's not just about one or the other, it's about employing both in the right phases. Remember, all chiropractic clinical care and adjusting that is used needs to be 100% designed to influence and improve the tone and function of the autonomic and central nervous system each and every time. Influencing neural change by clearing those patterns in the body, it's simple, but it's also complex. And that's why we want to teach and train you to do it. Because what that does is it gives the innate nervous system just the space, the time to self-heal, regulate, and honestly crush life. So that's why this is number 3. You've got a care plan number 1. You have to be able to find the primary subluxation, and then you have to be able to apply that with the appropriate technique at the appropriate time for that child. All right, Lesson 4, guys. And this might be the hardest one. Avoid doing too much too soon and keep within the sequence of care so the nervous system heals first. Let me repeat that. Avoid doing too much too soon and sequence the care so the nervous system heals first. This is one of the most important lessons I've found for chiropractors and honestly to teach other peers of mine who maybe aren't chiropractors, who are PT, OT, speech therapists. And this is so key with these tough pediatric cases because there's a value of giving the nervous system the time and the space to heal. Here's what I mean by this. Similar to how you can over-adjust in each visit, you can also overdo it with ancillary therapies when starting a care plan. Children that have complex neurological struggles, just like Kyle that I talked about at the beginning of this podcast, they have highly sensitive nervous systems. They're currently overwhelmed. And then on top of that, they're very easily overloaded by excessive stimuli or interventions. Sensory kids are exactly right here. Then when you introduce too many therapies or even a certain nutritional supplement, detoxes, all of those things can distract them from the core benefits of getting the nervous system better first. It's almost just like we talked about with scattering. The body doesn't know what to do with it to respond and to adapt, and it just gets stuck in the mud trying to do too much to change too soon. Now, here's the analogy, and here's how I like to think about this. Imagine as a parent, right? If you're a parent, you know how busy it is if you have kids. Now imagine you have 4 kids. That's a lot of kids, right? And they're all under 8 years old. So you've got a massively packed house. You're not sleeping enough. It's the start of a new school year, so routines are a mess. You're trying to start a new workout, and then your best friend family is going to visit from out of town this week. Trying to get to the root cause of your stretch and overwhelm with this much going on is impossible, right? You're trying to do all of it all at once. You're trying to raise kids, work out, get the house ready for people to visit. So really, none of those things are going to go well if you try to do them together. So the easiest way to move forward in this situation is maybe punt on some of those good things. Maybe now isn't the right time for a friend to come visit. Maybe I can wait on that new workout. Maybe I can focus on my kids and my job and, those kind of little things at first, effectively eliminating 2 good things, right? So I can focus on doing 2 other things really well. So you fast forward on this, and this plays into effect where you focus on one thing at a time. Chances are now if you're getting more sleep, kids are in a good place, you're in a good spot with your job, you can easily handle a new workout routine, a visit from a friend. Heck, you can handle everything as long as it happens in sequence. The same thing here happens with our kids. When they get absolutely overwhelmed with too much nutrition, too busy of a schedules with therapies, their gut has to detox, we're throwing everything up at once, and they're saying, what do I really need to focus on? So the takeaway from this is, in order to generate true foundational, sequential, optimal healing, we must first ensure the nervous system function and regulation is optimized. If we don't do that first, then everything else is limited in what it can do and the results we should expect. So focusing on neurologically focused chiropractic, that's what allows us to get momentum in the nervous system. And then you can start to incorporate a lot of other things. PT, OT, speech, all of those things can come after. So while it may be tempting, especially in the toughest or the cases that are the most stuck, to incorporate additional modalities, interventions, therapies, doing so can actually hinder progress and overwhelm an already overwhelmed and stressed nervous system. So make sure the nervous system is well cleared before you add in these other therapies. Now, this is not to say that any ancillary therapy does not have place in pediatric care, but rather they should be used in sequence. The primary focus of our care should be delivering high quality, neurologically focused chiropractic adjustments to adjust that root cause and give them momentum there. Give them momentum there, and then you can add in the other things when their nervous system's stable to allow their body to continue on that momentum. Now, as you know, I am a PX doc and I am proud of it. At the Pediatric Experience, we know that all of these lessons, gosh, they come to the forefront every day because you are seeing tough cases. You are seeing kids with big challenges. And nothing is better on the other side of that when you see the miracles come out of this, when they're getting better and they're getting results. Now, in PX, we've created a comprehensive program designed to equip chiropractors with the knowledge, the skills, the support they need to excel in these 4 principles. Now, when you become a PX member, you gain access to training in neurologically focused chiropractic care. This includes, hands-on seminars. It includes lessons in care planning. It includes resources with studies, research, clinical protocols, ongoing support in your community with the cases that you're most stuck on. And really, that's the key, is it is a membership or a mastermind that is going to help you forward with tough cases. Now, by joining this PX community and mastering these 4 lessons in pediatric chiropractic care, you're part of a movement. And that movement is us together trying to help these families around the world. Now, throughout this podcast, we've explored these 4 essential lessons that chiropractors need to learn from with tough pediatric cases. I promise you, just like myself, you will not master all of these at once, but mastering these 4 will be crucial to help you care for the toughest of tough cases. And you know what's awesome is when you start to gain confidence and you start to care for these tough cases, more are going to come to you and toward you, because that is what happens, right? Where focus goes, energy flows, and that's what's going to send them to you. Now, so use these lessons to equip you with the strategies you need to tackle those cases and be in expectations of this. This is who is going to come to you to be able to absolutely help you with it. Now, as we finish this podcast, I want you to think back to that initial story that I talked about with Kyle and his mom, Sheila. I was so nervous to sit there on that consult, knowing that mom had been to Mayo Clinic, she'd traveled the world, she was doing absolutely everything she could to help her child here. And here she comes to Crystal Lake, Illinois, where I practice, and sat down in front of me. You know what I learned after that consult, as nervous as I was, is she had been to all of those other experts, and all of those other experts did not give her the answers she is looking for. And it wasn't because, I did something special or I read a unique script or anything like that. It's because I was a neurologically focused chiropractor that had the answers to her root cause. I gave her the answers. I gave her the hope. I taught her the science, and I listened to her. And that's what it's all about for us as PX doctors and docs with tough cases, to listen, to learn, and to apply what we know, because parents aren't getting that anywhere else. When you have the right tools and you have the right training and support, even the toughest cases like Kyle's become opportunities for them to experience miracles in practice. And once you've experienced these miracles, I promise you will never want to go back, because you are having an absolute blast, you're having fun, and you're changing the world. So apply these 4 principles in practice. I love you. Apply these and go move forward. Love you. Take care.
Hey, Dr. Tony here, and I wanted to say thank you for listening to the Family Practice Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, like and subscribe to the show so you don't miss a thing. Also, if you're looking for more content from us, you can absolutely subscribe to our newsletter, watch exclusive episodes on YouTube, and dive deep into the articles and blogs on our website. All of this is linked in today's show notes. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next episode.